Hello, everybody. Welcome to Media Lab tonight. I'm Lee now. I'm currently a PhD student on the third floor at Camping with This is today, my colleague today. And we're very honored to co-host this event together with the BioChange initiatives. We were contacted by Stefan about a month ago, and he mentioned this amazing idea of hosting a BioChange event in the Media Lab. And we got contacted because of one of the projects we did, which we will talk about later tonight. It is related to biology. But we got excited about this actual organization of the events because our passion of trying to reach out to the larger MIT community and also potentially the larger community within Boston, within the US and beyond the US to the world.
So it has been a big hot topic of engineering and design biology in the Media Lab. Lots of groups in the lab actually started designing the project, starting their own interpretation about how biology can intersect, for example, computer interfaces or semiconductor or architecture and so on. And actually, if any of you knows a little history about the Media Lab, that the founder of Igor Hunting used to say that being digital, how digital is important to the Media Lab. But now recently, he actually stated bio is the new digital. And so we hope that through these events, and then we can start a platform that foster a broad communication between departments, between researchers, faculty, and students, and think about how to situate biology in science, engineering, design, and art. Yeah. So let's move to.
So, BioChanges is researchers, industry professionals, and professional designers. And 2-3 years ago, we started working with myself, Dr. Dominic Southgate, Dr. Laura Alonso, and Dr. Victor Mahita on this idea of building BioDesign facilities in London. And at the time, no one really had much of an interest in doing it. So instead, we started working on different projects. So one of the projects was using this 3D bioprinter, which I will talk about later. But we also worked with Raymond Macaulay in BioCurious, he's also the head of biotech in Singularity University now as well. And the idea was, at some point, to build up all of these communities and have international facilities across the world that could be linked to the biomaker space as well. So then in 2015, Dominic introduced me to Professor Peter Childs, here on the left, and then Professor Miles Pennington. And they brought me along to the Royal College of Art and Design to teach the innovation design engineers kind of biodesign concepts, or as Miles kind of coined the phrase, to demystify synthetic biology and bioengineering. They also wanted to meet with all the heads of department to actually build these facilities within the Royal College of Art and Imperial College London. And these are actually going ahead with Professor Oran Katz, who is a visiting professor in the RCA and is setting up one of the labs in the Royal College of Art, and the Advanced Hack Space at Imperial College is also setting up another facility, and hopefully they will be linked. In addition to that, we started working with NUI Galway, where Professor Charles Spillane wanted to set up a lab where they could allow designers and artists to come in and use their spaces. And around the same time was when I met Hiroshi. And when Hiroshi and the Media Lab presented at the Royal College of Art, it kind of sparked an interest outside of everyone that was in innovation design engineering. And so like fashion designers and textiles all wanted to learn more. So that was when we started the first BioChanges event, which was in the bar in the Royal College of Art. From there we moved to another bar in Imperial College, and from that bar we went to Sir Alexander Fleming Hall in Imperial College, and now the MIT Media Lab. So it's kind of progressed from bar to lecture hall, and we're still working on building these facilities, but also building upon the community internationally, so not just in London and Europe, to actually connect it over to the MIT Media Lab, because I worked with Charles Bracchia back in 2013 on this concept as well. And so from there, we're still building upon it, helping them set up these facilities, and also a lot of projects have kind of started. So there are a few projects at the moment. One is actually, they're all looking for collaborators in MIT or even here. One is actually exploring the acoustic properties of biomaterials for novel applications. Then there's a biofashion project, which is using, I guess, shape memory polymers and biomaterials for kind of responsive garments. And while we were setting up the BioDesign courses with Innovation Design Engineering, we were actually running these microfluidics workshops, which are also being run here through David Kong and Head to Do Almost Anything. So it's kind of very similarities between what we were doing on both sides of the pond. Another project, this is at Central St. Martin's. One student is actually trying to grow human leather. She's trying, she doesn't have the facilities to do it, but she's done kind of the basic concept behind it. And then another one has actually merged bacteria with graphene to kind of create a conductive skin. And that's similar enough to an IDE project where they've done something similar for bioelectronics. Philip from BioFutures wanted me to show this as well because there's such an interest in technology that his device is like a bento box where you can kind of centrifuge and extract DNA, then use PCR and gel electrophoresis on something that is, at the size of smaller than a laptop. And they're starting a Kickstarter in March. And Philip actually set up a BioFutures event space in London, which allows people to get trained on all these techniques as well. In addition to this week I was actually talking to a group in Peru about setting up these floating labs across the Amazon. So that's another project we're trying to work on with the Fab Lab as well, and also the network in Latin America. It'll be interesting to see how that comes along. These are all of the people that we have worked with so far. So the people that have either spoken at the events or partnered up with us, including the MIT Media Lab at the top. And it's kind of, we're all working together on the same goals to try and expand what can be done with biodesign innovation here and in London. And I will talk about the company which I'm co-founder on, which is Orobotics. So Orobotics is a company that was founded to kind of change the way bioprinting is at the moment and to kind of revolutionize it. The meaning behind Ouroboros is that it symbolizes the sense of kind of constantly recreating itself. It's existed since Egyptian times, and then you've got one of our design advisors there, Dr. Southgate, kind of representing this is that we can create this technology and work on these different materials or software, but we need to, constantly reinvent it, which is what we're doing with some of our academic partners. So Gemma started working on these kind of basic bioprinters around 2011, 2012, in her kitchen and at home. As you can see, they're pretty rough models. And I was doing the same thing at the time, but we kind of both saw, well, they work, but they're not that great. So this is one of the projects for the Rio Tinto Sports Innovation Challenge, which was headed up by Dominic Southgate. And we used bare conductive ink and the bioprinter, which is a basic bioprinter, to actually to print this conductive mat. And as you can see, it's a pretty basic machine, and they're quite easy to get a hold of. So this was done 3 years ago. And then since then, I've seen other companies kind of come out with the same concept. And so before, even though Gemma and I have a more advanced machine, we kind of thought that we should release an open source 3D bioprinter. So Ranuk actually wrote the protocol for an open source 3D bioprinter, which is the basic one. Oksana and Sim helped design the case. And the idea behind this is that we're actually planning to use this as a model that we'll open source and let anyone use, because the parts cost around £200, £300, but also if people want to buy it, then maybe we'll run a Kickstarter, or since the head is so basic, we might actually get another novel extrusion head. But the idea is that it's to demonstrate that these bioprinters are some of them are quite basic machines, and they should be available to almost everyone, either biomaking communities or children or people in the education system. So at the same time as that, we had Gemma was kind of working on these early designs for multi-material retrievable bioprinters, and they function essentially like a scar arm. And so using these designs, she then took the company to Hacks. And so from January until May, kind of started to develop the company further. And so we were able to print in liquid and then just do regular 3D printing. Then in July, we started to build a lab, which is essentially a BioDesign facility. And by September, we had it up and running. And then, even though the slide's a bit of a mess, by January this year, we have this kind of novel retoolable multi-material bioprinter. The idea is that it can do 10 multi-materials. It's got a swappable extruder system. It can print cells, biomaterials, and shape memory alloys. It prints in air and liquid. It's completely upgradable, modular, and only 13,000. So there's a short video of it working. So it just functions like a robotic arm where it comes in and it can sense anything. In this case, it's sensing a syringe, so it's printing using the syringe. But in any case, that could be any tool head there, and it could be picking up that and functioning like a robotic arm. So as of last week, Gemma won an award for the most innovative startup in Europe. That was actually in Dublin. We got some money for AdWords from Google, and then we built this also kind of novel incubator enclosure, which we're still working on, but the idea is to have that as a separate attachment for kind of physiological work. This is the main team at the moment. It's Gemma on the left, and these are the kind of again, the text is merged together, but this is these are kind of our advisors, so they're all quite well established in their fields. So you've got Professor Alexander Sabalian, who has actually created the world's first synthetic trachea, which is in the little picture there, and synthetic nose. Brendan Corcoran, who works on veterinary medicine. Jimmy Moore, who works on microfluidics and medical device design. Daniel Green, who has this company, but is also a principal fellow in entrepreneurship at the Imperial College. Lucy De Silva was a professor of tissue engineering. Kevin is a co-founder of the Sens Foundation, and Dr. Dominic Segate, who is one of the main people in BioChanges, is also a senior teaching fellow in design engineering. And then James, who's hanging around here as well, is a expert in regenerative biology. Bill Liao is a co-founder of IndieBio. And Dr. Ravi Goliathan and Trevor Kerr are both lecturers as well. And so a lot of these people are our advisors, but we're also working with them on interesting projects that they're working on in their fields. And one of the most interesting at the moment is using kind of robotic sensors embedded within cartilage or bone. And so the idea is that kind of future of bioprinting is what one can actually be. And then exactly the slide is an absolute mess. But so I guess if you need to email me, just use the biochanges@gmail.com, because otherwise you're not going to read any of that. Thanks. And I guess we'll go through questions at the end, because we've got a few presentations to actually get through, and we'll take a break before Joe's kind of keynote talk. So, where's the laptop?